Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Adam Carstensen, and I'm really happy to be here today because this is actually my very first live stream guitar lesson. I created an app and a spreadsheet, which is really funny, called Shredsheets a long time ago, which you can see in the background here, but it looks like that. This is the Android app version of it. The Excel spreadsheet version of it I'm much more proud of, but this one's just more useful for my current use because I could do a mirror share where it sends everything from my phone directly to the computer. And I could show you what I'm talking about right here with this. So what I wanted to do today is I wanted to talk about the idea of the major scale. And this is an introduction to music theory in general. So as you can see on this gigantic mess of colors and squares, there's a lot to talk about. And if we just try to dive into it without any kind of an explanation, it's really impossible to see where you're going. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to decrease the number of strings right now, and we're just going to pretend that we're playing on a bass guitar for a moment because it's easier to see. Now you'll see that these boxes, they all represent a string on either a bass or a guitar. In this particular instance, it's set up for a 4-string bass. The lowest row of squares is the low E string, and then the A string above that, the D string above that, and the G string above that. So based on the weird way that they would call these strings, on the bass the G is the first string, the D is the second string, the A is the third string, and the E is the fourth string. If we go back to guitar, right there, now we have 6 strings again. So the lowest is the low E, the one above that is the A, the D, then the G, the B, the E. So it looks kind of like tablature if you're used to reading tablature. But this isn't a left to right type of reading thing where you're going to play one note, then the next note, then the next note, or whatnot. This is a configuration of all of the different notes that pertain to the C major scale on the guitar with the standard tuning. So if you're familiar with the open C chord, that hopefully most everybody is familiar with that one, but I'll show you what it is in case you don't know. So the open C chord is your first finger, or rather your third finger on the 5th string on the C note here. You can see that C, I'm trying to be a weatherman right there. See that C right there? That's the 3rd fret of the A string. That's that one that we all play for an open C chord. Now, the yellow square right there, I'm really terrible at playing guitar weatherman. The yellow string right there, or the yellow note right there, is the 2nd note that you play in the open C. So you got your C, and then your E. You probably might not even know the names of these notes at the current time because what you're used to doing is just playing based on string and then number. So what we're going to do is we're going to start referring to things in both ways. So it's not just the string and the number, but it's also the note. In this particular instance, we're talking about C, then E. Now the G, this green guy next to us, you can see it's on the far left-hand side. Far left. I can't do it. I don't know my directions when I'm backwards. The G right here. That's an open string. So the very first row of all of that stuff, all of these notes right here, all of those are open notes. So if we play open notes, it's E, A, D, G, B, E. Right? So we got our C note, our E note, and our G note. Those 3 together make a C major chord. And with the C major chord, we can play something like 60% of all modern music. So that. Now what you're probably used to is now putting your index finger on the 1st fret of the 2nd string, or the B string, right there. That's another C. That's an octave higher than the other one. So it's actually quite a bit, it's a rather dramatic difference. Sorry, I'm trying to get my cameras in focus. They don't do autofocus on this mode. So we get C, E, G, C, E, G, C again. And then if you want to play the open high E, that's an E. So C, E, G, E. Wow, that's so blurry. Let's see, is that horrible? Hey, look at that, I got it better. And that one still looks terrible. Let's see if I can fix that too. Yeah, that's a lot better. It's not good. That's good. That's still bad. Hey, look at that. Oh, it's still terrible. Even worse than ever before. I really need to get an assistant to help me with this, because this is really terrible. Okay, there we go. Nice and in focus. So, open C chord. Open C. We got all the notes that we're talking about right here. Yay. So that's a really boring chord. It's probably most people's first chord if it's not the G chord. But C. We're all used to hearing it. We're all used to playing it all the time. You can make an interesting song out of just the C chord. I mean, it would get hard to listen to, but if you like pick your notes specifically. That's 1, 1, 5, 3, 1, 3, 5, 1, 1, 5, 3. And you're wondering, what are these numbers he's saying? Because he didn't even introduce the idea of numbers yet. It's just notes. So we got the C, and then the E, and the G, right? C, C, E, G, or C, C, G, E, C, E, G, C, C, G, E, C, E, G. So with just a couple of notes, you can make a relatively interesting rhythm pattern. You can make a lot of, I don't know, pretty low quality music. So let's move on from there. Now, we've got a couple of other squares on here, right, that aren't colored. These squares are C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then C again. And those are all of the notes in the major scale. You can see down here on the right-hand side, the bottom right, we have C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And then there's first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. Above that is a W, W, H, W, 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 H. We'll talk about that one in a second. But the idea behind this is that in the C major scale, you have 7 notes. You have C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then C again. If you hear somebody that's playing the scales, and they're just like shredding along with the scales, or they're going through a simple pattern, that's like the C major scale, and it's really boring to play over and over again, but these are the types of things that you need to do in order to master playing along with that basic scale. I don't like the idea of running through the idea of scale patterns, because you end up teaching yourself how to shred along with that pattern without particularly knowing exactly what's going on. And when you try to cover the entire fretboard with these patterns, you see it goes all the way from, let's try to see if I can do this Weatherman style. It goes all the way from the open strings all the way over here to the 12th fret, and then it continues all the way over here to the 24th fret. On the guitar, everything from open till 12 is the same exact thing from 12 all the way up to 24. This guitar actually has 24 frets. It's my first guitar that has ever had 24 frets, so I'm pretty stoked about it. Regardless, because, oops, wrong direction. Because the first 12 frets are essentially everything that we need in order to talk about the theory of this. If you turn the app sideways or up and down, it only does 12 frets. But for here, it jacks it up because it's right in the middle of the screen. We're going to keep it sideways. When I go to the Excel spreadsheet, it'll be a little bit easier. But let's go through that basic scale pattern where we're just going from C to D, and then we're going to go up to a yellow. Here I'm going to the 4th string, E, then F, and then over here to the G, which is green, and then A, then B, and then C again. Say, okay, so looking at this from right over here, I'm going to go C, D, E, F, G, A, B, and then C again. So C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Yay, I played a scale, a whole octave. And then if you wanted to go even further than that, you can go from right here, and you can go C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C again, right? So you got C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And that's like right there at the top of my vocal range, because I don't got no vocal range. So now we're talking about how you can follow along with this in order to play the notes in the scale. Okay, well, that's a really boring idea all in of itself. And how does this actually help you out with any kind of playing guitar? Well, if you wanted to build chords off of a scale, what you do is you pick every other note. In music theory, they'll say that this is picking thirds, which is just a jacked up way of saying every other note. Now, the reason they call it thirds is that the first note that you play, in this case C, right here on the 5th string on the 3rd fret, we'll call that 1, right? And then the D, we'll call that 2. And then the E, we'll call that 3. So 1, 2, 3. Thirds is you just skip 2, right? And now if you go from 3 and you skip 1, right? You go from 3 and then you skip 4 and you go straight to 5 and you go 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5. So you see right here we got 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5. With those, you build the C major chord, right? Okay, we already talked about that. And we have these two notes in between. We have the 2 and the 4. The 2 being the D and the 4 being the F. So you got do, 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 do. Okay, we played 2 more notes in there that we didn't talk about yet. We got, my kids are home. We've got the A and the B, which are the 6 and the 7. Those are really important notes. Those are super important notes. I personally think that the 6 is my favorite note in the entire scale, with the 7 being what incorporates what you would call like a jazzy feel to it. Hey, Papa! Oh, that looks like a lot of fun. Oh, Jonathan and Max are here! Oh,
can I play
man.
Sonic Forces?
Of course you could play Sonic Forces, but I'm recording a little guitar thing right now, okay? We're actually doing a live stream guitar thing. You want to hear what I'm playing for a second? Ah, no, 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 none of that, none of that, none of that. Okay, so let me do it like this. Okay, so I'm gonna play the C chord for a second, and I'm gonna actually stomp on my looper pedals. So we got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4. Okay, so that's a boring C note. Let's turn that down a little bit. Now, we're gonna shred on top of that with quotes around it, and all we're gonna do is we're just gonna play through the major scale. So C, D, E.
Are you pushing something?
Oh, my kids are playing with my pedals. Can you help me out here?
Come here, guys. Let's go play with your new bouncy balls in the backyard. Come here, Max. You can
Okay.
play when Dad's done.
Yeah, that's the tuner.
Come on, guys. Go.
So. Right? Major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Okay, so now we're going to throw on a better rhythm, something that has a little bit more feel to it, something that you might actually enjoy in a small way. Okay, so that's just, again, the C chord with a little bit of palm muting. There's nothing interesting going on inside of it other than some rhythmic changes compared to the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 type of death symphony that I was going through before. Now, we're going to kick on a little bit of distortion and some reverb, and we're going to see if we like what we can do with some notes. It up even a little bit more, and that was really way too loud. all I'm doing is I'm playing this C, B, G, C, so then C, B, G, E, but I'm doing it up here on the 12th fret because it's exactly the same, so. Then up to D and then G. Yeah, that fifth right there, it sounds really good. The fifth is the most, I can't remember the word for it, but it harmonizes the most, I guess the word is harmonic. It's the most harmonic note along with the C major scale, meaning that it differs the least from the regular C note. So we got a C and then a G. See, so with these notes and the different variations and the way that they play off of each other, you can create interesting sounds. As I was saying before, I'm a super huge fan of the sixth. So this is the C, that's the 1, and the A is the 6. It sounds like it's almost resolved, which means that there's a little bit of wiggle room there. It's not correct yet. It hasn't fixed the tension that it feels. Then go up to the 7, and then the 1 again. So that's 1, and then next octave 1, and then 7, 6, back to 7. Okay, so one more time. Let's go over the C major scale and the whole idea behind it. You have, oh, I need to be over here. Okay, down in the bottom right hand corner you have all the notes. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C with their respective numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Those numbers are referred to as the scale degree of that note. So in the key of C major, I gotta figure out how to get out of the way of myself. Yeah, okay. So in the key of C major, you have 7 notes. The first scale degree is C. The second scale degree is D. The third scale degree is E. Fourth scale degree is F. The fifth is the fifth is G. The sixth scale degree is A. The seventh scale degree is B. And then the first, again, which you could call the 8th, because 8 octave, is another C. And that's 1 again. So let's go back into playing the most simplistic thing that we could possibly do, now using 2 chords. So we're going to use the C chord, and then we're also going to use the G chord. So let's see this app, and let's see something that it does really quick. And this is something really important that it does. If you just swipe a little bit, it changes what key you're in, right? So there we're in C, C sharp, D flat, D sharp, blah, 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 F over to G flat. There we go, G. Okay, so in the key of G, you have the exact same pattern that you had in the key of C, where you have G starting to begin, and then A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That F is special because it's not just a regular F, it's F sharp. Everything other than C major has something in it that's not a whole note. So there's going to be either a sharp or a flat in every single key other than C. If we go back to C, it's just C, B, or C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. Here in the key of G, it's G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. Say, okay, why? Well, it's because the idea of a scale is that we take the note that you get from playing a string, and if you play it halfway between the beginning of your neck and the nut over here, the bridge over here, then right here it's a 12th fret, and it's the same note, a different octave though, of the open string. So you've probably heard that sound a lot before, but that's called an octave. So we have 2 notes, right? We have one note here and then another note here. You have all of this space in between these notes, and we used to have more than 12 frets. In fact, there were used to be no frets whatsoever. It was just a string that had tension at the top and at the bottom. And then based on where you slid your finger, you would have a varying frequency. So if you think about the cello or the violin or whatnot, they still don't have frets. And there's fretless basses and fretless guitars and things like this. And with those, you could put your finger basically anywhere and it'll make a sound. It might not be the sound that you're trying to get, because let's say you're trying to play a G note here, but your finger's just a little tiny bit off. It's going to be a little bit flat or a little bit sharp from the G note. So they said, how are we going to fix the fact that a lot of different people keep playing different notes that aren't in the same scale? They're a little bit far away from each other, and playing together with each other kind of sucks sometimes. Okay, they say instead of just putting your finger down somewhere, we're going to put a bar in here that you just press behind it, and then that bar is the location of where your finger would go. So these bars are our frets. We have the first fret here, the second fret, the third fret. These are the little metal bars that go through here and hold it down. So you say, okay, so they decided to break this note, or this range of notes, into 12. Say, why did they pick 12 notes? Were there 12 notes? No, it's an arbitrary choice. And the reason that they picked 12 is that more numbers divide into, or 12 divides evenly into more numbers than any other lower number. So you can break 12 into two groups. You have 2 groups of 6. You have 3 groups of 4, 4 groups of 3, 6 groups of 2, and again, 12 groups of 1. So if you did 10, then you would have an even division of like 2 groups of 5, and 5 groups of 2, and that's it. If you did 11, you would have nothing because it's a prime number. Now, we broke this down into 12 notes, and they said, okay, amongst these 12 notes, instead of calling it note 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, they said, we want to refer to these things as a different system. They said, okay, let's just use letters. And you say, okay, well, why did they start on C? They didn't start on C. They actually used to start on A, and it's because the minor scale used to be what we referred to as the normal scale. Everybody liked the minor scale. It was just the normal sound that everybody was used to. So it was, that was the minor scale. Let me turn off this reverb so you can actually hear the guitar. So that was the minor scale, and we'll talk about the difference between the major and the minor scale. I guess we could do it right now for just a moment. If you look down here on these WWH, WWWH, that's above the major thing right there, those are the steps that you need to do to get from one note to the other. Let's take this back to C sharp, or C major rather. So a whole step is referred to as going from the fret that you're on, going one note above it, that's a half step, and then one more note, that's a whole step. So a whole step is skipping one note. That's not skipping a scale degree, it's just skipping one note. That was, there's some tears. That was a stream of half steps. And if we start doing nothing but whole steps, sorry, I'm quite distracted by the kids. There we go. We got whole steps. Now, say, okay, why did they do the whole and the half? Is it because they were already using numbers for a bunch of different things, for what fret you're on, what scale degree you're on, instead of doing 2 notes, 1 note, or whatnot. They needed some sort of another system that we could use to differentiate what we were talking about, so you're not just talking about the same exact thing all the time, or so that there's less confusion. So, going back to our little diagram here, we have WWH. That's a whole step, then a whole step, and a half step. This whole step, the first one, exists between C and D. So we skip one note, we skip this C sharp, and we go to the D. So a whole step from C to D. Now there's a whole step again from D to E, which means that we skip the D sharp or the E flat. And then there's a H, little h. That's a half step. So there's only one note between the E and the F. So you have E and then F on the first fret of the low E string. Or in our situation, on the 7th fret of the A string you have E, and the 8th fret you have F. So they're right next to each other. But the first two notes in the scale are a whole step separated. Now, if we do nothing but half steps, it sounds weird. It doesn't always have to sound weird, though, because we expect that half step between the third and the fourth for the major scale. 2, 3, 4. And then it goes back to whole steps again. And this time, we have 3 whole steps in a row. We got whole, 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 half. So let's go back to that. So we got our first note, then a whole step, then a whole step, then a half step, then another whole step, whole step, whole step, and then the very last one to get back to C is a half step. So we got. And that's the C major scale. We'll talk more later. Thank you very much for watching. Y'all have a great day, and I hope you get a good chance to shred a bit on the guitar. I'm going to be coming out with one of these videos every single day. If this one was really hard to get into, and this one was hard to understand, that is entirely my fault, because this is my first one ever, and I really suck at this. I'm really bad at playing Guitar Weatherman also. That's going to get better, hopefully. That's probably not going to get that much better. This is really weird. But the guitar stuff will get a little bit better. Y'all have a great day.